guys have it. That is the brand new Dota 2 team of Meet Your Makers. With me is no stranger to the Dota 2 scene. It is MiSeRy. Welcome, MiSeRy. Thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
All right. Well, you know what? Let's get off with the first question. Welcome to Meet Your Makers, first off. And, can you tell me something about the new lineup?
Well, the new lineup, as you know, is consisting of 3 Danish players, as well as myself, and then Mini, Swedish player, and Exist from Germany. It's kind of new players to the. I mean, not new. I mean, they've been around, but they're not as known to people as they should be, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I heard a lot of good comments about them from other players saying that they probably have a lot of potential and could do big things in the scene.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, you know what? I wanted to talk about your history, your personal history in Dota before we get into the Meet Your Makers team and whatever. So, what was your first computer game? And, if it wasn't Dota, then when did you first start playing Dota?
Well, I used to play a bit of Counter-Strike and a bit of StarCraft. It never really caught my interest that much. I just played with my friends, and that was it. I didn't enjoy it that much. But then I discovered Dota. First, actually, I started playing a bit of Warcraft 3, but it was the same. It didn't interest me so much. I liked the engine, so I started playing some fun maps, and that's where I discovered Dota. And I mean, me and my friend, we just played one-on-one and started playing a lot of public games, and yeah, that's how I really got into it.
Okay, and what about the competitive scene? Did you learn about it in Dota, or was it earlier, or?
Back then I was really young, so I didn't think of computer games as being a sport at all. I didn't see any competitive things. I didn't know anything about anything. I just played because it was fun.
Okay. So, many might consider your first professional team probably as Mom Equals Toilet back in 2008. What were some of your teams before this team, and what were some of the early successes of those teams?
Well, before Mom Equals Toilet, I played for Ducky's Dream Team. It was with my real-life friend Ducky and some people from Battle.net. They're not really known now, so I don't even remember what the lineup was back then. But yeah, I played with him, and that was more casual. I mean, we did play Pig League, Dota League, but it was really casual. It was once a week and stuff.
Okay, I mean, did you guys have any successes that might have caught the eye of other professional players, or was it really, really casual?
I mean, we did play against some of the better teams in some scrims, and we did play. I think we played one MYM Pride, where we almost got into the playoff, got knocked out just before. But I mean, that's basically how Mom Equals Toilet got to know who I was, and that's also how I ended up getting invited to that team.
So, do you want to talk about what were the exact circumstances of you getting into Mom Equals Toilet? How did you get into the team?
Oh, it's so long time ago, but I think, the team consisted of 5 Danish players, and I believe one of the guys had to go do some stuff, work or whatever, and they needed a player, and then they asked me.
Okay.
That's very simple.
So you guys started placing pretty impressive results pretty quickly. I think this one that sticks out for me is the 4th place finish at DreamHack Winter 2008. The team was also nominated for 2008 Ghost Award for Team of the Year, and I also read that you guys were badasses, as in that you guys had a reputation for flaming people. Is that true?
Probably.
All right. Well, what in your eyes made this team so good, this lineup?
Well, I still don't think we were, maybe towards the end, we were kind of a tier 1-2 team, but I mean, we were always the underdogs playing against the better teams, like MYM and SK or whatever it was back then. Okay. but I mean, it definitely helped being 5 Danish players and the fact that we were always underdogs, so that helped us a lot. And yeah, that's
So, I
how.
mean, you didn't really have pressure, right, to perform, or
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. So, Met was picked up by Ravens in 2009,
Hmm.
and that team ended up merging with Kingdom, and it left you without a team. You weren't in that merger. Did you have any like hard feelings about the merger?
Well, there was a lot of drama about that at the time, and it was a bit sad for me because I was the captain at the time, and we just started doing really good with Mets. We beat Kingdom just a week earlier, and we started winning the best teams, and I felt like we were becoming a tier 1 team. But obviously, I mean, you can't blame them for wanting to make a team with Melk and Mania and Pusher Street at the time were like the biggest names in Dota. So, I mean, it was kind of sad for me, and I was a bit pissed off that they kicked me out. But yeah,
So do you think
shit
that
happens.
do you think that if Ravens stayed together as a team, that you would have been a tier 1 team?
I don't know. It's really hard to say. At the time, we did play really good, and we started getting our shit together. And we had a German guy too, Moots, I remember. So it wasn't full Danish anymore. But it's hard to say how it would have gone further, like in the long run.
Okay. Well, shortly after you, okay, so shortly after you made a team the last try, and I want to ask you about this name also. I mean, was there any hidden meaning behind the name the last try? I mean,
Yeah, I think it was Quam and Loda that was talking about making this new team, but they didn't know that they wanted to keep on playing for that long. I think it was mainly Quam because he also decided to quit eventually half year after or whatever. But yeah, that was basically it. The last try. It was like the last try of trying to make a really strong team.
okay, and you know this team actually defeated Ravens at DreamHack Summer 2009. You guys ended up winning the event.
Yeah.
So was this victory really important to you? Was there a rivalry at the time?
Well, of course, it was super amazing for me. We beat them first in the finals of DreamHack, and then we beat them at Gamescom in the finals as well, just a month after. And well, it felt super great beating my old team and the guys that they merged with, and they were all Danes too. So I mean, it was a great experience. It was great revenge, you could say.
Well, right. Well, you know, and after this, I'm a little shaky. So I know you guys got picked up by Fnatic. But when I looked at the rosters, you guys seem to have a slightly changed the roster than you did with the last try. Is this true?
Yeah, we played DreamHack with Loda, Quam. Who was it? Well, but it was at least 4 Swedish players, Miracle and one more guy. And at Gamescom we played with Freezer and Ducky.
Right.
No, Ducky. Freezer and Kebab, actually, a German player as well, and Freezer Romanian, and Quam and Loda and me. It's so long ago, man.
Yeah.
I don't remember what happened. But
Well, what I want to ask you about is why did you guys end up changing the roster when you joined Fnatic?
Yeah, that is a good question. I think our last Swedish player, who I can't remember the name of, I think it was like PNG or something. I think he had some real life things to take care of, so he couldn't play anymore. And then we talked to Kebab, we needed a support player, and Kebab was a really fucking good support player at the time. So we took him in, and he was really up for it. And then we needed a stand-in for whoever was our 5th player back then, which I don't remember either.
Yeah.
But Freezer ended up being super good for us that LAN, so it was a good decision.
Okay. Well, in 2010, you parted ways with Fnatic, and you were part of many organizations. I mean, DDT, Blight, Lost, and finally at the end of 2010, you joined Meet Your Makers. So what was up with the large amount of organizations? Why did you hop from one to the other so quickly?
Well, as far as I remember, we started out just being nicked Ducky Stream Team, and that was with Ducky, my friend. He came into the team, and that was just that was no sponsor. That was just a fun name because he was the captain, and he likes to be like on the spot. And then we got contacted by Blight, this organization who was really shady. At least in the end we found out how shady they were. Yeah. They promised so many things. Basically, that was just how it was back then in Dota. You couldn't trust like most organizations. It was only very few that was actually good. And at the same time, Dota wasn't very it wasn't so big of a game, and it wasn't very recognized amongst like in esports in general. So people didn't really care about it, but they still just wanted a team because it's good publicity. Still, a lot of people played Dota, even though it wasn't big in esports. Right. But then we joined Lost, who was a Jordanian or Arabic guy who had his own company and who was really into Dota, and he was super cool guy. I still have contact with him, and he's a really good friend of mine, even though we haven't met since that one time I went to Jordan, which was also really cool. He invited me, Ducky, and Miracle to come to Jordan, and we were there for 2 weeks where they paid for everything. Wow. Like literally everything. Even though we wanted to pay for something, he just said no, it's my treat. So that was super cool. Yeah.
So, I mean, what would you say is your fondest memory from the times of Dota? Dota 1, I would say.
Dota 1? Well, I think we also went to China with this team. And my first 2 trips to China was definitely, like, basically all the China trips in Dota 1 was so epic because, like, the game back then was not that big in Europe compared to in China. Yeah. So going to China was huge. You know, you would go there and there would be like 10,000s of people watching these tournaments, where in Europe there would barely be any. Of course, it's changed now completely. But back then it was really crazy going to China. So that was definitely the highlights.
Okay, awesome. And you said that you see a difference between Dota in Europe and Dota in Europe, you know, in Dota 1 and now in Dota 2. I mean, what's different in Dota 2 in Europe now?
Well, first of all, the scene is much bigger. It's taken much more seriously. There's more tournaments. There's more money involved. The LAN events has gotten a lot better. Production value is better. Like, just overall, everything is like so professional now compared to back then, and even compared to China now, Europe is superior in my opinion, at least in terms of lands and production value. And yeah. What
about teams-wise?
Teams-wise, I feel like the Chinese still have an edge apart from a few teams like Navi and Alliance. I still feel like Chinese are better, and the practice environment is also better. Because they all live in these gaming houses and it's like full-time job. I know Europe has become full-time too, but I don't know. I still think the Chinese are better than most European teams.
Right. So I want to hit on Dota 2 now. You transitioned into 2011. This is not your first time in Meet Your Makers. You've been in Meet Your Makers before. And you transitioned in 2011 into Dota 2. And this was a star-studded lineup. I mean, Playmate, Mania, Demon. After placing 4th at the International 2011, why did the team disband?
Well, we actually spent quite a lot of time on boot camping before TI. We had a really good run up until TI. We won a lot of online tournaments. We beat Navi, the champions of TI1. Just prior to the tournament, and we felt really good. So our expectations were really high, and we were probably a bit cocky too, which was fucking stupid. But you know, what can you do? We were cocky Danes. And then we ended up being 4th, and like even the fourth place was, I mean, I think some people could say that it was kind of lucky that we got this fourth place, but we were definitely good enough for top four. Our performance in some games weren't really that good, but well, still we ended up being a bit disappointed, and yeah, some people wanted to take a break after like boot camping for 1 month, and not maybe people didn't like Dota 2 that much back then because it wasn't really complete. It was just like a really raw beta, you know. It was not really a game you wanted to play that much compared to Dota 1, which we played for like 6 years in the past.
So I want to ask you also, since we're on the topic of the differences between the games, was it hard to switch? I mean, when Dota 2 came out, were you thinking of just sticking with Dota, or did you know that you were going to move on to Dota 2?
Well, it was kind of some unwritten rumors that, you know, if Dota 2 comes out as a game by Valve, there is not really a choice about staying, you know. If you want to keep playing, if you want to keep competing in Dota, you're probably going to have to play Dota 2.
Right.
So that was just a transition that was necessary, and like obviously whenever you got used to Dota 2 and when the game got better, I mean, it wasn't a mistake. I mean, now the game is super awesome compared to Dota 1. Like there was so many bugs in Dota 1. The game was, I mean, I still love the game for what it was back then, but I mean, Dota 2 still brought it to the whole next level.
Right. So, you know, not long after the international, you guys were part of a new international roster on Evil Geniuses. You guys played with some Americans on that team. Whose idea was it to put to get this team together in its international form, and how did you find yourself in this team?
Well, it was actually right after we decided to take a break from Dota with MYM and decided to disband. Demon wrote in our Skype channel that if anyone was interested in making a team, because it was not everyone who wanted to just chill and not play. So he wrote, and me and playmates were still up for playing, and he said he had contacted Fear, and we just needed one more player, and then it ended up being PyCat as well. And then he had some contacts to China, to some Chinese sponsor first, but that didn't work out. And then we got contacted by EG, and then it was a really cool deal we got.
Yeah, I mean, EG has been known for giving out great deals in the past.
Yeah, definitely.
So another year, another team. 2012, you guys signed with CounterLogic. What led you to join this team, and then what led you to leave this team right after?
Okay, well, first of all, I wanted to leave EG for quite a while, and then suddenly, when I got out, not officially, but people, at least the pro players, knew that I wasn't playing for the team anymore. Then PyCat, who wasn't in the team either anymore, he was playing for CounterLogic at the time, and he asked me if I wanted to stand in for them at the Star Ladder in Ukraine. And that's basically how I got into the team, and at the tournament they asked me if I wanted to join like permanently. And that's how I got into it. Okay. After we played, we also did really good prior to the tournament with this team online. Then when we got to TI, we had some problems, and we performed really poorly. And that's basically how the team ended up disbanding afterwards.
Okay. And you joined right after for LGD International. So can you talk me through joining LGD International? How did this team come by forming?
Well, we kind of felt that year was being dominated by China. That was up to TI2, and there was also IG who won, only Navi being in top 8 of TI2. So we thought about it, and we actually thought that China was it was the only place to go if you wanted to win. That's how we thought back then. Obviously, that's not how it ended out, but well, that was basically the reasoning for wanting to go with LTD, they contacted PyCat, I think, or they started talking, and naturally, me and PyCat started looking for some other players that were interested in going there, and yeah, actually living there for almost the whole year.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I wanna hit on this. What you said, that you thought that going to China is the best thing at the time. I saw an interview with you where you said that you thought that was a mistake going to China.
Yeah.
So can you talk me through this? Why maybe was it not the best idea?
Well, I think it's really, really complicated now to talk about, and there's always reasonings for what I say at the time.
Okay.
Right now, I don't see it necessarily as a mistake of going to China, but the problem was to live there 1 year. That's basically the main issue of this. I mean, the first 2 months we played there, we had a fucking good team spirit. Everything was awesome. Everyone was happy. We performed really good. We came top 2 at G League after beating all the Chinese teams. And if the tournament, I mean, if the finals would have been directly after the playoffs, we would have probably won the whole thing because we were unstoppable. Not because of our strategies or anything, just because of our trust and confidence. But then we had this one and a half month break because of the Chinese New Year and vacation and stuff, and we basically didn't play at all. Right. And then we had to go back to China again, and then stay there like what would be half a year in a row. And after G League finals, which we lost 3-1, we didn't have much tournaments for 2 months.
Right.
Apart from some online 2-day thing. And that's where we kind of got tired of each other and tired of being there and tired of the environment. And that's kind of what ended up killing the team. So I think going to China in the first place for these 2 months was a really good call. But I think we should have stayed there until even though it was Chinese New Year, that's unfortunate. But if we had stayed there till the end of the G League finals, then gone home for 2 months, then came back, things might have looked different in the end. Yeah, it's hard to say. But living in China was definitely a rough thing for the team.
Yeah. Well then, I want to talk to you then about the Chinese scene a little bit. I mean, it's a question that just popped up. What keeps the Chinese scene so good if they don't have that many tournaments going on?
Well, in Dota 1 they had tournaments every month. I mean, people didn't really know about it, but there was actually LAN tournaments all over the place, all the time. Much more than in Europe. And even in Dota 2, I mean, that year we were there wasn't tournaments. But this year there are definitely tournaments.
Okay.
I think whatever I said earlier in some interview about there not being tournaments is kind of bullshit. It's not really about that. About why the Chinese is so good, it's definitely something about their mentality. I mean, the Chinese discipline and stuff, and the whole Chinese culture. It has definitely something to do with that. Okay. But yeah, I mean, they're just really good players as well, and they practice a lot, and they are often on LAN, if not every day.
Okay.
So
for these past 3 teams, and I'm talking about EG, CounterLogic, and LGD, I couldn't help but notice that all of them had PyCat in the lineup. So what's the deal with this? I mean, was it just a spur of the moment? I mean, is he one of your favorite players to play with? In that interview that I keep on bringing up, that you even cited him leaving LGD as one of the reasons for leaving the team. So what's up with PyCat?
Well, you could say that in the beginning when I joined EG, PyCat was... I didn't know PyCat at all. I had played with him at one time for a few months in TLT, but I didn't really know him. And then he asked me to join CounterLogic Gaming, and at that time, I mean, we just played together. We were just some casual teammates at the time. Yeah. But after being in CLG and in China with him for 2 months, back then with EG, and going to TI, we when we decided to disband with CLG, we kind of decided to play together with LTD. And I mean, we also obviously got good friends after this, and like we were teammates for so long, so that was natural.
Right. Okay. So now, I mean, at this very moment, you're joining Meet Your Makers along with what is the lineup of Team Life. Since Team Life has a 5-person roster, I want to ask you what your role is going to be in this team.
Well, actually, I was contacted by the manager, and they asked me if I would be interested in being a coach for them. But since I don't really know what I'm doing right now in terms of if I want to play or if there is a team for me this half year, I don't really know what's going on. So I thought the idea was really cool, and I think this coaching thing is something that should be thought about a bit more, at least in the European scene, because it's been in China for several teams, but it never really got into Dota in Europe. Mm-hmm. And I think it's very interesting, and they offered me a 1-month contract to do this and to help them out, and to help announce the team, and maybe to help the MYM clean their name a bit in the Dota scene, which is cool. So yeah, I took the offer, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what I can do.
All right, and so, what do you think is the potential of this new lineup? Do you know what you want to work on with the team already?
Well, I just started meeting the guys for a few days ago, and I played a bit with them because one of the guys is missing these days. So this will definitely be a good start to see how they play and what kind of personalities they are, and what kind of picks they prefer, what kind of players they are, and this will definitely help me later on when I need to try and help them with their issues or whatever. I'm also really new to this coaching thing, so it will also be a challenge for me. And I don't know if I'll be able to help them, but I have some experience in the bank, regardless if good or bad. So I'll see what I can do. So
can you talk about what are the closest goals for this team?
Well, I'm sure they wanna try and qualify for TI. But qualify for all lands, play as much tournaments as possible, win as many games as possible. I mean, whatever other teams' goals are, it's all the same. You want to win as much as possible, and you want to be a success.
So I want to talk about like the tournament scene in Dota. Do you think it's at a good place right now in Europe, or would you rather see more tournaments? Would you rather see less tournaments, maybe?
I mean, I would love to see more tournaments, but I think right now it's in a really good place. There is Star Ladder, and there's this Dota Championship, and like joint Dota League, and MLG, and TI, and Chinese tournaments that invite players, and there's this other thing in Las Vegas. I mean, there's so many tournaments, and it's really great for Dota. The prize pool has gotten so big, and
Prime might be coming back as well.
Oh, really? That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
That was always a great tournament back in Dota.
So I want to also ask about, since we're on the topic of Dota 2 and the current state of the game, what do you think after this new patch, because the new patch just came out? So, what needs improvement? What did they mess up? Did they not mess up anything?
I think the new patch was kind of not the biggest deal in the world. I think some of the changes were really good, and we might see some changes in terms of supports we already have. I mean, AA has been seen a lot lately, and Dazzle as well. Prior to the patch, there was almost none of these heroes. I also think Tusk will be seen played a lot. I don't really remember, but I think overall it's a good patch. Some heroes will see a lot of play, others will maybe fade out a little bit, but it's not the biggest deal.
So, what are your favorite picks personally, and Are there any heroes that you'd like to see more in the professional scene?
Um, well, I think, like I said, I'd love to see Tusk a lot because I think he's a really cool hero. Even before this latest patch, I thought he had huge potential. That Alliance also showed us, even though it was as a carry Tusk, it wasn't really what I expected. And even though it was a one-position Tusk, you couldn't really see it as a carry anyway. It was going for tank items. It was more kind of a utility, kind of snowball, run over your enemy kind of Tusk. But yeah, that hero is in my opinion really cool. Other things,
I mean, are there, OP champions, item builds that you want to touch on?
I think in the new patch, I still think actually I can't really say if there's any imbalanced heroes right now. I feel like it's kind of balanced. I think the new Quas Vex Invoker seems pretty stupid. The fact that he gets mana back and the fact that it's 550 mana at max level, he's so good at like setting up fights and dodging fights and like delaying pushes, and I think he just has so many good qualities. He can go for these utility items like Hex and drums and Force Staff, and doesn't hurt the team at all. I think he could be like definitely a top pick. He already is, but like let's say a top band then. Yeah.
So I want to talk about the teams in general, all the teams in the scene. Who in your mind is the best team at the moment in the world? And I might as well, since this is a quick answer, I might as well put this question also in with the fact, which scene right now is better, China or Europe for you?
Right now it's pretty hard to say because China has just had its Chinese Lunar New Year thing, and they're taking a break. But I think the strongest team right now is probably still Navi. Like Host has been rampaging everyone every game lately, and I think they're the strongest team right now. If there was a big tournament, they would probably end up winning. In terms of scenes, I think it's kind of still the same. China has more tier 1 teams. That sounds really like static, but I still think it's Alliance and Navi, maybe Fnatic, that can compete with Chinese. Where China has many teams like Tongfu DK, LGD, what's the other teams? VG. They have a bit more teams. I think that scene is still a bit stronger in terms of play.
Okay. So what do you think that the Dota 2 scene needs in Europe to grow a little more, to become better?
I think the scene just needs to keep doing what it's doing right now. Just keep playing out these tournaments, keep being professional, keep being more professional. Hopefully there will be even more investors and more tournaments coming up, and then it happens kind of automatically as more and more players come into the game. I think it will come all natural if everyone keeps up and the game doesn't suddenly lose its interest like to people.
Yeah. You know what? Let's talk about maybe your plans in the future a little bit. Do you plan on staying in esports, after Dota or, after you're playing competitively?
I'm not really sure actually. I know for a fact I will stay around for as long as I can, I think, unless it like I lose the interest as well. I'm kind of thinking about starting up my own company outside of esports. Meanwhile, nothing big is going on. Where I have some time, when I'm not in China playing every day and stuff. I have some off time to do these things. And then I would love to stay in esports. I mean, I think it's I have a great passion for it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been here for this many years. So, yeah, I'd love to stay as long as I can, as long as if an opportunity comes as well afterwards.
All right. Do you know where we can see, you know, the Dota 2 team compete next, in what events, or is it still unknown?
What, sorry?
Do you know what events the Dota 2 team will be competing in next?
I know they're playing in the Joint Dota League right now. Apart from that, I'm not really sure if they're playing any other tournaments, actually. Like I said earlier, I haven't been that involved yet. I just started a few days ago.
Yeah.
So I don't know that much yet.
Okay, and do you have any insider info about the international? Because I don't think it was announced yet, or was it?
Nothing has been announced yet, and even if I did have inside information, I probably shouldn't leak it here. So I'm gonna have to say no, regardless.
Worth a try. All right. Well, you know what? Thanks a lot for doing this interview.
Of course.
Welcome to Meet Your Makers. I hope we'll have a lot more opportunities to interview you or the team, and we'll see some great results come out of you guys. So thanks so much for doing this interview. This is time for you. Do you want to make a shout out to anyone or thank anyone?
Well, thanks MYM for giving me this opportunity. Yeah, thanks to all my supporters and fans that I have around the world. It means a lot to me. And yeah, that's basically it.
All right. Well, guys, this has been the second episode of Point of View. Our guest was MiSeRy. You can follow Point of View or me at MYM_MKey. It's right below my screen. Just remember to put an underscore in between MYM and MKey. And you can follow us on our YouTube channel at My MYM Video on YouTube. All right, guys. Thank you so much, and thanks, MiSeRy, for this interview.
Thank you.